Fuck dignity. The fragrant flower is blooming with peak. This series is moving at an egregious angle and I can't keep my eyes off it. My mind off it, I can't even keep myself from wanting to immediately rewatch it on a daily basis. And we still have another episode left. I feel the need to clarify that because TikTok and shorts, maybe shorts. I don't know, I don't doom scroll shorts like that. I keep getting TikTok accounts that keep algorithm baiting with one more episode left. And then both Kaohana and Bunny Girl Senpai have 13 episodes total in their series, which is so easy to find if you just used your fucking hands and brain. But they are algorithm baiting. And to clarify, Dress Up Darling did finish today. Thought I'd mention it since these three Cloverworks productions aired together, that they are not all going to be finishing together. Just these two will have their finale on September 27th, which also makes Kaohana's episode today hit so much harder. They still have more in the tank, even after a drop like this. I will say this wouldn't make for the most satisfying conclusion to a series, but anime tends to, you know, not conclude exceptionally well.
Who the fuck let this nigga in the function?
The fragrant flower is just more dignified than what we're used to. And what better way to distinguish yourself in an oversaturated genre than to rage bait your whole audience by making it seem like this was the season conclusion. But we'll get there in a sec. I want to talk about some important stuff this episode did. So here's a spoiler warning if you haven't watched the episode yet. Come back when you do. And leave me a comment or like, or you could even subscribe on your way to go watch it. Now, I cannot express how healing the series is. There is something so serene about the way these characters draw you. I'm only going to compare one scene to the manga, but especially for this episode, there is quite a lot to absorb for the audience and emotional impact for the animation and sound team to pronounce that I don't think landed the way that they wanted. I am speaking for myself with that, but I'll talk about that more next week in my review. This episode provided me with a much different emotional context of how quickly this summer experience for the cast went, and it hit a nerve. The time we spend with the people around us and the moments we share with them, sad, exciting, happy, or miserable, passes us by in what low-key feels like 20 minutes after they've gone by, but it felt like an eternity when we were in the moment with it. This episode started and really didn't slow down. As these characters were all super excited to have this day together, I also was super excited to experience this day with them as well. And it was going too fast. I found myself pausing this episode kind of frequently thinking, man, this is flying by. I don't want it to be over yet. And it's really hard to not feel that way with this episode. If you're paying attention, the first half was clearly used as a way to wrap up all the conflicts the side characters had. Right here is a great use of visual storytelling, but I might just be reading too much into it. You got Subaru at the back, while Usumi and Kaoruko are big stepping at the front. If you're paying attention, you can totally see Sumigi and Subaru being close together, as these guys are both self-aware to their internal conflicts. Now I might be reaching, but this first half focusing mainly on resolving Subaru's internal and external conflict with herself and the squad makes me feel like I'm not reaching too far when saying that this shot is used to convey that he has something on his mind. Especially when the second half of the episode is quite literally about what this dude's been thinking about. To me, the placement of these characters here is a subtle way to show everyone's comfort level, which, using that logic, leads me to believe that the first half of this episode is the sort of checkpoint of the series. Subaru being the focus of the first half reaffirms that thought, since she was sort of the big point of conflict for quite literally every character here. Her self-conscious attitude is relatable enough, in my opinion, for people who have struggled conveying negative feelings to people they value, or anyone who's just typical to miscommunication. People seem to really suck at confrontation. Honestly, this might be the biggest flaw in the show. A woman taking accountability? Fucking hell. The point is, her struggle is real. She created a lot of issues and she feels bad for it, as any normal person would. And she's not a terrible person, so her friend being mindful and present of what was going on around her, Kaoruko makes sure to isolate her friend to make sure that she feels safe in a space she knows Subaru is typical to be overwhelmed in. That acknowledgement and validation from Kaoruko to Subaru is what makes Subaru encouraged to say what she needs to properly bring closure to her conflict. This show really thinks shit's sweet, because this show got me looking like and after all that, we think that all of the issues up to this point are resolved until we get fucking or a farm shadowing Saku over here, but now the cast is finally unified. Also, the scene is really cute. It might be the top 1 beach episode in anime history, and it's not debatable. And y'all can miss me with that bullshit because I'm not gonna fucking hear it. But this adorable scene tells me that the issues we've had up to this point have finally resolved. And we still have 8 minutes of episode left, which means for all the MFs who watch this stuff to circumvent their loneliness are now going, this not happening to us, gang. Yes, you heard me. You and me, we dying alone, twin. Because at this point, this is one of the most emotionally taxing scenes I have been able to witness in 2 unique ways. I'm gonna start with the anime. This scene goes exceptionally fast, which is super believable, by the way, because as I'm recording this, it really made me realize how real Rintaro is for this behavior here, because he's really been a side character this episode. So if we think about that internal conflict that I was saying he had, that shit's been bottling up. He's been surrounded by overstimulating platonic feelings for the whole day and the last 4 episodes, which given the anime's timeline has probably been a month. Actually, those 4 episodes would be a month for us too. But he's been trying to figure out if he has romantic feelings or not. And if you've ever had any intimate relationship before, you should know how miserable these days can be. They're fun, but they also absolutely suck. Those are so long. But the point is, Rintaro being unable to sort of control his thoughts at this point is just so fucking real. And in that moment of Kaohana just being who she is, and with his poor processing of the emotion that he's been dealing with, Kaohana is pretty much enchanting him at this point. And almost like he was hypnotized, he unconsciously lets out a completely genuine and unfiltered,
好きです
and this shit's just so fucking cute, man. Straight up, the second half of this episode is just built different. After the episode break, there is no music to distract us, just the raw, ambient sounds. The sparkler signifying that Kaohana is what's been lighting up Rintaro's world. The ocean breeze is literally a paid actor and filmographer. The way that it sounds like it's pushing the camera to them, which means now I gotta mention the masterful use of transitions, editing, and sound design. Simple is better, less is more, and they gave me the most with the least. Also, this is one of the most fitting or realistic water animations I've seen in an anime. Maybe, I'm not too sure, but it's scratching an itch in my brain when I look at it. Absolute cinema. That's the only thing I could say. This whole scene was just beautifully cinematic. Poetically cinematic, even. Is that a thing? Can I say that? Does that make sense? Do you get that? Look, I got a lot to say about this show, and since I know what's coming next week, I'm going to save the rest of those thoughts for my review of the show next weekend. But to round out and conclude my thoughts on this episode, it's quite impressive they were able to do what they did and not make this the finale, because now they need to do better than the episode that they just showed me. And spoiler alert, I'm pretty confident they're going to do that, because in regards to the manga, the scene that I was just hyperglazing, low-key, I think hit harder when I was reading it. But to properly compare these two things, it felt like to me the anime grounded me in Rintaro's perspective. I really understood what it meant to him to be accepted and cared about unconditionally. Him reaching that realization of, I want more, I understood that. Where the manga was a lot more whimsical, almost surreal feeling. I felt like a spectator, with the perspective of, oh, I'd like it if someone made me feel that way. Where the anime made me feel like, I love how she makes me feel. The anime just felt a lot more grounded in Rintaro's perspective, where I was becoming equally enthralled by that genuine, unconditional kindness. This was also making me a lot more aware of Kaoruko's perspective, how she was just happy to be there, and that the words she was saying was just her unconsciously making him and us aware of her internal conflicts with everything that's happened up to that point. That awareness felt a lot more personal, and because of the anime, was more intimately conveying what Rintaro was seeing. A fragrant flower blooming with dignity.